Alright, so in this video we're going to quickly go over how to use zSpheres within zBrush. So what zSpheres let us do is it gives us a way to create a base mesh to kind of begin with. So to get started, I just have zBrush open here, and if I go over to my tool palette over here and click on my tool, and I look into 3D meshes, we'll see this red one called zSphere. So I'm going to go ahead and click it, open it up, and it'll make this little sphere in the scene. And to get started with it, we got to make sure we're in our draw mode up here. And while we're using this, we're going to be constantly swapping between draw, move, scale, and rotate. So Q, W, E, and R on the keyboard. So in draw mode, and we can use zSpheres with symmetry activated. So now I got my symmetry on. Let me turn the floor off. So I'm in my draw mode. I got my zSphere, and now I can click and draw a sphere. And so when I draw it, it'll kind of link it up with these kind of in-between ones. Then if I go to my move tool, I can now drag this out and reposition it. So as you get started, you just switch between draw to draw in another zSphere, and then move to reposition it, draw to draw, move to move. And you can see how using these we can start to block out an initial form. So if I'm like making a creature or something, I'm drawing in, kind of doing like the torso section, and I'm repositioning them and I'm moving them around. So you can go back to any of these like joint ones and click them and then drag them around to reposition them because I'm using my move tool. So now I can go around, I can draw on some more, maybe I'm getting some legs going, moving them around, drawing them in, moving them around. So it's a pretty quick way, instead of like starting with a sphere and kind of dragging stuff around, to just get in these base forms pretty quick and effective and efficiently. So you can get as detailed as you want with this. So right there we were just using the draw tool to draw in the zSphere and the move tool to move it around, but also if we go to the scale tool, we can click and drag on any of these to change their size. And if we click and drag and hold let's see, Alt, it'll kind of change the size of the whole chain. And then, let's see, if I click on the sphere, and then I go back to my move tool, you can see when I select one of these, it also displays these like bones in between. And if I could click and drag on those, you can kind of use them to repose your zSpheres a little bit, because you saw how it kind of utilized all the bones in the chain to like reposition them. Or I could hold down Alt when I click and drag to just like move it around without bending them around. And when I draw them out, I can also, if I hold Shift, let's see, if I'm over here and I draw and hold Shift, it'll create another one that's the same size, so I can move them around. So it's pretty cool, and if you wanted to like add one in between here, you just go to your draw tool and click, and then you got another one in between. Maybe you use this as like we're on our scale tool to like add a little extra form there. But you can go around and you can start to build out your form. So after you play around with that for a while, we're building it here, but we need to turn it into a usable mesh. So the next step would be, you can see we're on our zSphere tool here, and if we come down to adaptive skin down here, give that a click, we see we have a couple settings here. So if I press preview, what this does and if we turn on our polyfill, we can kind of see more detailed what it does, is it creates a mesh around our zSpheres based on these couple parameters here. We got some density and some dynamesh resolution. And so if we unpreview this for a second, we drop down our dynamesh resolution and then preview it again, you can see it rebuilds it, but at a much lower resolution. If I turn this off all the way, let's see what it does. It'll build it, but it won't have that or that dynamesh kind of topology. And then we could actually up the density a bit to make it a little more detailed. But this is cool because sometimes you can do this to give yourself some nicer topology to work with to begin with. Because like at default, if I'm at density 1, you can see how pretty, like around the arms and around these legs and torso, like we have some nice geometry going on. But either way, you kind of play with the density and the dynamesh resolution, preview it to get yourself something to work with. So like obviously this isn't a final mesh, this is just a base mesh for us to work off of. And then, so we're just previewing it right now. Now to make it official, we press Make Adaptive Skin, and when we do that, it will create a new tool that is basically this model, but without the zSpheres kind of connected, because while we're still in this one, we could turn the preview off and continue to, make adjustments. But now, if we go back up to our tools, we'll see we have a new one here that if we click on, we don't have our adaptive skin, it's just this model. And now we could get in here and we could start, sculpting right on it. Maybe we delete our lower subdivision levels, turn on our dynamesh, and now we have a nice, base mesh to start creating our model with. So this is an excellent way using zSpheres to create ourselves a nice base mesh to work with.